Hi folks, so in this video what we're going to be doing is completing an exam style question from a previous mock paper. It was the pre-junior cycle examinations 2022 graphics question. Okay, so it's based on the topic of orthographic projection, where we're going to have to, it says here, the image below shows the design of a similar lunchbox. Draw part 1, an elevation in the direction of arrow A, and then part 2, a plan projected from the elevation. Part 3, determine the true shape of surface S, and we can see surface S there. Okay, it's kind of on the handle portion. So you can see here in this question, they're not actually asking us to draw an end elevation. They're just asking us for the elevation and the plan. And we know the plan is when we're looking down on top of it. Okay, so in that case, what we're going to do is we're going to set up an x1, y1. Just looking at the height of it there, yeah, about here I think should be fine. Sorry, an xy line, I should say. So there's my xy line, and as always, I would always work out my overall dimensions. So what's my overall height, my overall length, and my overall width? So the overall height of the object, you can see here, is 95 up to here, okay, that portion there, for the actual lunchbox itself. But then you can see the handle part goes up 17 and up 18, okay? So 17 and 18 is 35. 35 plus 95 would be 100, 95 plus 5 would be 100 plus, it would be 130. So the overall height is 130. What's the overall length then? The overall length you can see from the left to the right is 180. And then the overall width of the object, 20 plus 40 plus 20, you can see it is 80 as well. Okay, so when we're setting up the object, what we would always do then, I'm going to start off by creating a box for my elevation. That's concerned with lengths and heights, 180 long, 130 high. So I'm going to keep it over here on the left hand side, 180 long, 0 to 18, and it's going to be 130 high. So 4 just about fits, it's perfect. So 4 to 17, that's marked 130 high, just using maths there. Okay, so everything for my elevation is going to fit inside of that box. Everything for the plan view, which is the bird's eye view, looking down on top of it, okay, is going to fit in a box down here, below the XY line. Usually we keep a gap between our elevation and plan, anywhere from 10 to 20. I'm going to keep a gap of 20. And then what's my width for my plan? My plan view is concerned with lengths and widths. I've already the 180 put in from here to here. And then I have a width of 80. So after marking down 20, I'm going to mark another 80 millimeters. So 0 as far as the 8. And from there then, project the line across and the line across. Everything for my plan is going to fit inside of this rectangle. Everything for my elevation inside of this rectangle. Okay, so what I would start with now is simply putting in information relevant to both views. I'm going to start with the elevation because that's the one that says an elevation in the direction of arrow A. I'm going to start by putting in any lengths that I have along here. So you can see here, starting at the bottom left hand corner, my first length is of 20, 15, then I have 110. So starting with the number 20 plus the 15 will get me to 35. Bring over the 0 then. I'm going to mark as far as 11, which is 110, and then an extra 15 after that. So there'll be another 10 and 5 with 20 left over. So what I often do, if you have time, you mightn't always have time, choosing a highlighter here, marking the ones that I have used. Okay, there's all my lengths along the bottom. Now what I'm going to do, you can see that's just for that section there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in the height up to, from the green part here up to this point until it turns pink. And you can see the height of that section there is 80 with 15 left over. So I'm going to put in the 80 and the 15 next for my two heights. So marking upwards from 8 up to 0 and then marking an extra 15. Okay, so the first line here is essentially my green line. If I project that across, this line here is the pink portion. And then the space that's left is where I'm going to have the handle. Okay, now I know that this line here is a fully heavy line. So I can actually heavy in that one. And I can also heavy in this line running down here, and this one running down here. Okay, the reason I can heavy those in is because I see this face here as an edge, and I see the face on the opposite side as an edge, and then the green line running all the way along there. Even though it curves here, I don't see the curve when I'm looking straight at it. I see it still as a straight line. Now what we want to do is we want to create this rectangle here. So what's the height of that rectangle? You can see here it's a height of 66. So once again, I'm going to be putting in that height, 66 there. And you can see then it also comes in the 35, 20 plus the 15. So where the 20 and 15 marks are, I'm going to do a line up and a line up. And on that line, I'm going to measure 66. Okay, I've measured up to 66. I'm going to now draw in that surface. So there's that one, which is this edge running along it. This one. And this one. Okay, so you can see here what we're putting in. I know it steps in a certain distance, but we can't see that in the elevation. And then what we have left inside in there, we have 4 circles, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the corner, and we have a rectangle as well. We'll put in that detail afterwards. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on the pink section up here. Now, in regards to that, that's a little bit trickier. You can see here from the plan view, when I'm looking down on top of it, we can actually see that these sections here, on all the edges, they're all curved. So at the bottom here, you can see we've got a radius of 20, okay, in every corner, a radius of 20 and a radius of 20. I might actually, before I start here, I'm going to move down to the plan view here, okay, and I'll actually put those in. So the radius of 20 will be in every corner. So what that means is, I actually have the 20 already marked. You can see it there. I'm going to bring this down and the 20 down. And what I'm then going to do is mark up 20 and down 20 from each one. Just to identify the center. So mark the 20 up, and from 8 down to the 6, having marked those, do a line across and a line across. Getting my compass. I'm going to heavy in those edges now. Okay, so using this as my center point, because that's going to be the center point of an arc of radius 20 on all 4 corners. So as always check before I draw that they're matching up. So I'm happy with that one. Happy with this one. Once again, just checking, you can see there. Quite happy with that one. And then finally, the final corner. Happy with that one. Okay, now that I've done all the 4 corners, I'm just going to draw in what I see when I look down on top of it. So there's that and that. This one here. And this one. Okay, so that's the bird's eye view of obviously the pink portion, or sorry, the green portion as we look around it. Okay, now the next one I'm going to put in is the pink portion. And you can see here we've got another section inside of it. And this time the gap there, and just looking here, you can see that it says 9 there. It's a little bit confusing based on the drawing, but you can see it's measured in 9 and we have a radius of 11. Okay, so essentially it's the same center point, I'm assuming. It's actually the same center point, but with a radius of 11 because 9 is taken off it. So what we're going to be doing is, from the same center points, we're actually going to mark out 11. I'm going to mark out 11 on this one as well. Okay, just on the 2, will be absolutely fine. I'm going to get my compass again, because we're going to see another arc sitting on top of it. It's sharing the exact same center point. And with that 11 arc, I'm going to put that in there. Same center point underneath. Distance is set on my compass. So just making sure I don't slip. I'm working with a marker. Just making sure. There we go. There's the 11. There we go. And once again, now that I've put in the curve, heavy in each section. As I said, they should match up perfectly. Okay, so there you have it. You can see that section now. Now that we've done that, what I'm going to do in my elevation is bring this back up. I can identify that section and just having in this one, and that section. And what I'll actually see there is a straight line running from here to here. Okay, because it curves radius 20 there and a radius 11 at the top. I'm going to heavy that in now. There's that one. This one. Then using my T-square to get in this one. Okay, so there's that one done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put in, just look in here, we can attack it in two ways. We can either do the plan where we can put in the handle, or I can do the handle in the elevation. And I'll get into detail here afterwards. I'll actually go with the handle in the elevation first of all. So for the handle in the elevation, you can see here I've got a series of measurements. Once again, just going to mark in what I've used. Radius 11, I've used that. I've used the 9 gaps there. I've used all of those. That's perfect. I'm happy with that. Now what I'm going to do is putting in, I've also used, just checking here, the 20, the 40 and the 20. I've used those, and I've used the radius 20. I'm happy with that. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to use these measurements here. Okay, so you can see here we've got a gap from this point here, which would be seen as that edge. I've got 11 in, then it goes 8. So from here, I'm going to mark back 11 millimeters, 1.1 centimeters. Then I'm going to mark the 8. Having marked the 8, I'm now going to mark back 124, so 12.4. And then after the 12.4, I have another 8 millimeters. And there we have it. So there's our points, 11, 8, 124, and then the 8. Now, that's obviously for the first portion of the handle. Okay, now actually before I do those vertical lines, I'm going to check how high that goes. So you can see here it goes up a height of 17. Okay, so I'm actually going to measure up that 17. Actually do it on this line here. So mark the 17 from this point up to here. So there's the 17 put in that line going across, and now the outside one, starting with that, I'm going to put in this one and this one. Actually put in the whole way up. Okay, now that I've put that in the whole way up, the reason I did that is because after it goes up 17, when it continues on, you can see then from the corner it goes in 24. So from this corner here, I'm going to mark in 24. And I'm also going to do it from this corner, but mark back 24. And then that simply connects from there to there, there to there. Okay, so you can see there, the handle is starting to take shape now. So heavy in this one, heavy in this, heavy in the horizontal line from there to there, and finally the angular line there to there. So that is the outside portion. Now if I want to figure out the inside portion, if we look down here, you can see this section here isn't as tall as this line. Okay, so clearly it obviously remains the 8 thickness the whole way around. So just because I do my line up to here, don't assume that this point then goes over like that. Okay, so what we actually need to do is from this line here, from this one, I'm going to measure down 8 millimeters. There's the 8. And the lights are just going out there, so apologies, just have to move. So there's the 8. Now what we're going to do, having done that one down there, and that should remain the 8. And the last thing we're going to do is from this line here, I'm going to mark out 8 millimeters as well, like that. And I'll do the exact same from this line over here, mark 8 millimeters out. Now that I've done that, I want to do a sliding set squares. Now that I want to do that, I'll do the sliding set squares. So there's that one. And you can see here, using this edge as my guide, sliding set squares here. And there's that one. That'll actually help us create the handle then. So a little bit of complexity in that. So there we go. I've now got that edge, and you can see clearly then that it does not go up to the same height. Finally, once again, heavying in this guy and this guy. Okay, so there you go. We've got the handle now in the elevation, so we have to get it then in our plan view. I'm going to put in the final detail in there in a minute. So in the plan view, now that I have the handle, I can transfer that all the way down. So that was in, looking like there was in the 20, yeah. So I'm happy with that. That can go down. This point here can go down. Then bring these ones down. Now that one is down already. Happy with that. That one comes down. Bring down the topmost point. We'll go in there. And just extend it a little bit further. Okay, now that I've done that, looking down on top of it, I'm going to see this skinny sliver here. What is the width or the thickness of it? Just actually checking there. Sorry, it's the 8 here as well. So I have to see how far I measure in. So you can see from this line here, from this line we measure in 23 and then an extra 8. So from this line here, I'm going to mark in 23 millimeters plus an extra 8. Now that I've done that, I want to do a horizontal line across, and that's going to actually heavy in from there all the way over to here, and likewise on this side. And then I need to heavy in the important edges. So there's edge number 1 on the outside. I've got this edge coming from the top, got this edge coming from the top, I've got this edge down here. Okay, do I have any hidden detail? Yes, I do. So I don't see this edge as I look down the top of it. I'm going to heavy in that. Likewise on the opposite side. And then, is there any other edge that I do not see? Yeah, there's one edge right here. I bring this down, and likewise with this one. And what do I do with those? I have to heavy those in. Okay, so there's more hidden detail on either side. That's our handle after being completed, and what we have left then is the detail inside here in the face, where I've got the 4 circles and the rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to start putting that in there now. So I can see here for circle number 1, each circle has a radius of 8, and then I want to get the dimensions. So you can see here for the center it's over 13 and over 13, 58, 13 and 13. So from here goes over 13 millimeters. You can see that one's already done there. Perfect, I'm happy with that. Then this one, another 13. Then I've got 58 millimeters. And then I've got 13, which is right there. So I'm happy with that one as well. Okay, so the 13 and the 13. This one here is for the rectangle. The rectangle is between those 2 lines. What is the height of it then? I can see then that the height actually, because it's squares inside here actually, so the height here is actually a 13 as well. Yep. So I'm going to measure up 13. And measure down 13. That's the rectangle. I'll actually extend those across because they're in line with the center points. Okay, so I'm going to heavy in that rectangle now. Okay, so there's the rectangle. Where I got the rectangle from was measuring over 13 and 13, so the 13 to here, and then another 13 to here, and on this one, it was 13 and 13 as well. Now I've got all those center points. I have 4 circles to do. They're all radius 8. So this is a little bit awkward with the compass, but I'll do the best I can. So I'm going to mark 1 8 out and see how we get on. It's a little bit awkward when you're using a marker and an extension on the compass. We'll do the best we can. So there's 1. Onto the second. And then the third one. And finally, number 4. Okay, there you can see the detail is after being put in for the elevation. Now the last little bit that we might be missing is in the plan view, where the box goes and it steps in. I have to mark that as hidden detail in the plan view. So I bring down this edge and this edge, then I'm going to mark in the distance there, and you can see it's 5 millimeters. So I actually have to mark the 5 millimeters in. So from this here, I mark back 5, do a line across, and then hidden detail all the way from there to there, and then from there to there. Okay, and just looking at that now, I think I've completed the elevation, I've completed the plan. Okay, just looking at all, it was quite actually a detailed drawing. Okay, lots of little finicky bits in it, especially with the handle and this kind of stuff in here, and getting the hidden detail portions. Okay, lots of little bits in that one there with lots of measurements here that were actually a little bit confusing in my opinion. Just checking here, do I have any hidden detail? No, I'm happy with that, because that edge there is the edge that would run along the inside, or this edge down here. Okay, I've got that, and pretty sure that's it. I've got the hidden detail for the handle. No, I'm pretty sure that's it. Finally, the last part of this question, what it's asking us to determine, I'm going to put it in red, is the true shape of that surface right there. Surface number, or surface letter S. Okay, so we need to identify S. Where is S in our plan view? In our plan view, this is surface S. There. Okay, where is surface S in our elevation? We would see surface S as this line here in our elevation. Okay, now that I've got the surface S in both my plan and elevation, I have to find the true shape of it. Okay, the only way I can actually see the true shape of surface S is to either rotate it or take the measurements, the true lengths from it. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to treat this line here, that line there, as a hinge. Okay, and if you imagine this point and this point were to rotate around and down, likewise with this one, it would rotate all the way out, around and down, and essentially this point and this point have rotated around this hinge, and essentially what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it until it's flat. Now when we have it in its new position, because we're looking down on top of it, we can see the true shape. So to actually complete that, if I was to give it letters, and I was given, I'm going to say this is A, and this is B, this is C, and this is D. If I want to find those in elevation, well, A and B are here, A comma B, and C and D are here. Now we want to rotate, A and B is our hinge, because that's these 2 points. I want to rotate A and B, or sorry, rotate C and D, I should say. You can see here, it's gone up above my border, but that's okay. I want to rotate those until they're flat. So now that I've rotated them until they're in a flat position, the new position of C and D, that surface has after been rotated, C and D is now here. So if it's now there in my elevation, I now need to find it where it is in plan. So I need to project it down. C was here, it's now out here. D was here, it's now here. So in my plan view, maybe this surface in now. I'm going to go with a slightly different color. Go with a green. So go with the green there. And now using the green highlighter, it's the same surface, but what I have now found is the true shape of S, of surface S. Put a little arrowhead there. Okay, that there is the true shape of surface S. And what we did was we simply rotated it and brought it down until it was in its new position. Okay, so there you have it, guys. That there was a tricky enough question. Okay, a little bit of detail, a little bit here might have been caught a couple of people there. Same obviously with the handle part and maybe some of the details inside here, because those measurements can be a little bit confusing. But that there was a junior cycle mock exam question from 2022. I hope you found that out.